we get like halfway through the show and you're like, oh, shit.
I mean, there's a decent chance I do that anyways, but not because I forgot to record it.
You're listening to Dots, Lines, and Destinations, a travel podcast with hosts Stephen Seagraves, Fosma Moon, and Seth Miller.
Hello, and welcome to episode 427 of Dots, Lines, and Destinations. I am Stephen Seagraves, joined by Mr. Seth Miller. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's a rainy season, so, might snow here.
We had snow the other day.
April snow just is not great for me. I'm over it.
Yeah. I still remember in college my plane getting de-iced going home on like Mother's Day weekend in May.
Oh, God.
In upstate New York. So, yeah, that's my standard for is it a good idea or not.
So I think the big news for you, at least, is that there's a new airline coming to Lincoln, Nebraska. To be clear, Lincoln, Nebraska. Another Lincoln.
What other Lincoln is there?
And you are unexpectedly excited, or maybe expectedly excited.
I'm amused by this. So, it's not an airline.
Okay.
A little bit like Janet in The Good Place. Not a robot, not an airline. But it's a charter operation. They've done up some branding. It's called Redway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's playing on the red of the university.
Yeah.
Right, so fine. Charter operated by Global Crossing. They're going to have 180-seat A320s or 183-seat A321s, I think, from the release I saw.
Okay. And
the plan is to serve 7 cities twice a week each during this coming summer. They'll do 2 trips on like a Thursday, Sunday pairing, I think, and then there's a Monday, Friday pairing, and then there's a Wednesday, Saturday, depending on which city and destinations. And nothing flies on Tuesday, so
okay,
they need to recover and get.
And so are those flights they're basically out and backs for those 2 days, and then.
So yeah, you do a. Maybe I misexplained it. You do a. I think I wrote it down. They fly from like Lincoln to Austin, back to Lincoln to Atlanta, back to Lincoln to Minneapolis, and back.
Okay.
That's one day. I think that's Monday and Friday. That's the routing. Thursdays and Sundays, if I remember correctly, it's to Orlando and then to Las Vegas.
Okay.
And then the other one is to Nashville and to Austin. No, Austin. I don't know. Nashville and somewhere else.
Okay. And how many of these have you booked?
No, not yet. So my problem is they're launching in June. I have a couple of problems. One, I'm not sure when I'm coming back to the United States in June yet.
Yeah.
If I'm going to stay in Europe for the Paris Air Show or not. But also, I really try to not travel in the U.S. in the summer.
Oh, I can't imagine why.
Because it's going to be chaos and
and expensive. Like fares are insane.
Yes.
Like I think it was like $900 and something to do Philly to Denver.
Yeah,
which is insane.
So anyway, Redway, they've got a basic economy product that's actually stupid cheap, and then everything costs some money, as you might imagine. Seats, bags, etc., including a carry-on.
Yep.
Their regular economy fare is almost reasonable, and they're selling what they're calling a premium. It's like a Eurobiz blocked middle seat.
Okay.
What I found interesting is that they're basically selling those even at undercutting the economy class price that you could get from United with a connection. United is the only airline that currently flies out of Lincoln. They've got Denver, Houston, and Chicago.
Really? I didn't realize they had 3. I didn't realize Houston was there. That's crazy.
Houston's relatively new. It used to just be the other 2.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that it's cheaper. Admittedly, like airfare through the hell knows, and I only spot checked a handful. But it was cheaper on all the ones I looked at to do this new Redway instead of United. But Lincoln is an hour down from Omaha, and once you get there, you've got nonstop options on multiple airlines in many cases for all of these routes. And they're and cheaper.
Like, does, I guess, American fly Omaha to Austin or something? Do they do one of those?
Allegiant has Omaha.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's arguably the one where this is the best comparison, where this has the best chance of success, and even that, they're only running it for the summer and cutting it.
Mm-hmm.
Delta has Atlanta and Minneapolis. as you might imagine. Someone has Las Vegas, maybe it's Southwest.
Well, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually, I mean, it's a little surprising, like Southwest doesn't fly Lincoln to, say, Love or something.
Yeah.
That does surprise me a little bit. Like, I feel like they could do that once or twice a day and make money. I don't know. But then again, I'm not in the airline business, so what do I know?
And, remember, Love is relatively full. It may be an issue at that end.
That's true, yeah. And
anyway,
so
it's interesting. It's funny. The other part about it, though, is that the city is subsidizing it.
Oh, interesting.
To the tune, I've heard $3 million tossed around. And where that becomes interesting to me is we're in the midst of application season for the small community air service development program grants, which this is something the feds do. So you're familiar with Essential Air Service, right, where
Yep.
routes are subsidized and guaranteed to operate. In addition to that, there's this small communities program where cities can apply for annual grant funding. I think it's up to 2 years, a certain amount per year. And this comes with a local match usually.
Okay.
So like the city or the Chamber of Commerce or local business, whatever, come together and like, we've got $800,000 that we are guaranteeing. We'd like, matching funds from the feds or comparable funds from the feds, doesn't have to be the same number, to help us attract a new airline and provide revenue guarantees and whatnot. And 50-ish apply every year, 20 to 30 get it. It's an interesting program. You see a lot of very small, a lot of markets end up getting either regional jets,
yep,
or smaller / alternate carriers. So last year, Breeze and Avelo were involved in a half dozen of these applications.
Okay.
Right. And Sun Country was actually was a weird one in that rather than just flying connections, most of the time what the program brings is you get a connecting flight into a hub and then you're quote unquote in the network and people move on from there. Sun Country, and we talked about this last year at some point, basically won a bid by connecting, I think it was Rochester, Minnesota, to Orlando and Las Vegas.
Yep.
And also to Minneapolis for the connection. So this seems to me to be a bit of that play, but didn't wait around for the Fed funding to come through. They just are spending the money and doing it. So,
I mean, with college traffic, it's a little weird to do this in the summer for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a little strange because college is out.
Right.
And kids go home. I mean, maybe this is serving kids going home, but even that, I think, is a stretch. Like, to me, this is spring break.
Doesn't start till mid-June. Kids are gone.
Yeah, to me, this feels like it should be a service that's, like, done for spring break. Lincoln's not a huge city, especially when college is out. It reminds me a bit of, I mean, it's a bit smaller than Lubbock, but it reminds me of Lubbock. Just kind of, it's a college town with a drinking problem. It's a small city that's could be served by something an hour and a half away, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, Orlando, I think, makes sense. Austin kind of makes sense. I don't know who wants to go to
300,000 people with, and I don't know if that's including the students or not, but even if it is, that's not tiny.
True. So
I associate it with, I attribute and analogize it to Gainesville, Florida, where I grew up.
Yeah.
And Gainesville, which is 150,000, is half the size.
Yeah.
So, and has supported.
Gainesville's that small. I didn't realize that.
Without the students, yeah.
Huh.
I would have thought it was a little bigger. It was only like, I want to say when I was growing up, when I was there 40 years ago, it was probably 50,000, 60,000. So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Lubbock's bigger, but I mean, Lubbock and.
It was close. 1990, we were under 100.
Yeah.
In Gainesville.
So it's 300,000 people. I guess I just don't understand the destination. I don't know who wants to go to Austin in the middle of summer. Like, that seems like a terrible idea. But I guess people do. Minneapolis kind of makes sense. Las Vegas makes sense all the time.
Yeah, Vegas and Orlando are the one. I mean, and the days they're flying them, right? Thursday, Sunday. It's long weekend travel. I get it.
Yep.
I don't know if you get people doing the off window, right? Like, is the plane going to fly out to Orlando empty on Sunday, or are people going to go for the Sunday to Thursday trip?
Yeah. I mean, they could, right? If they want to
Yeah.
away or something. I mean, that kind of That makes some sense.
And some people will do full weeks. Like, I get it, but I don't know. I want to take these trips mostly because I just think it's hysterical that the lines exist, but I don't know which of them will still exist in September when I'll finally be ready to do it.
Yeah, and you were looking, I think you mentioned, like, there's not a lot of, like, good connection. Like, you're not like you can connect. It's all unprotected, right?
Everything's unprotected, right? They don't sell connecting flights. But there's the way it's scheduled, there's only the one plane.
Yeah.
So
there's only 4 gates at Lincoln, like 4, jet bridges at Lincoln. So
I got jet bridges. That's not so bad. Again, I'm comparing to Gainesville, which for the longest time didn't. They used to have a garbage can full of umbrellas that they'd use when it was raining. Seriously, a garbage can that they'd put at the bottom of the stairs, and they'd hand you a giant golf umbrella as you walked out the door of the terminal.
And then you had it as a little bin when you get to the airport.
You had a bin at the other end that you put it in, and they wheeled it back to the terminal.
Yeah, it's like the remote gates at Dulles.
Yeah.
Freaking
anyways, they're unprotected connections, but because it's just the one plane, I can't imagine you'd miss. The question is, like, is it worth doing?
Mm-hmm.
And which of the 2 cities would, like, that's why I sort of figured out which cities the airplane flies between every day. Like, could I do Atlanta to Minneapolis with 6 hours in between while the plane is going somewhere else or something like that?
Yeah.
Head downtown and grab a quick dinner or lunch. I don't know. The Quilt Museum?
The Quilt Museum, yeah, for sure. Quilting Museum sounds fascinating. If you get stuck, you can stay at the lovely I-80 Hampton Inn. 5 stars. Yeah, there's not a lot to do in Lincoln, I don't think. But
yeah,
I mean, I have friends.
I'm not going to schedule it for a game day weekend. I'm not that.
Yeah. I would say don't do that. Maybe that's really what it's for. At the end of the day, is like for football season when it comes around.
Probably not. I mean,
the connections aren't great.
The markets that it's serving don't do that. The Friday and the Sunday flights, I guess, but they go to different places, and you'd think they'd need connection to the Big 12 schools.
Yeah, they're Big 10 now. Nebraska's Big 10, I think.
Is the Big 10 and the Big 12 different league?
Yeah.
Conferences?
Yes.
Okay.
Big 10's like Purdue,
Whatever. Yeah, I just remember that the Big 12 doesn't have 12 teams anymore, so that was weird.
Exactly. Yeah, it's Nebraska's in the Big 10. They used to be in the Big 12, and then A&M decided to go to SEC and stuff.
Yeah, but they're not going to fly to some of those cities. So,
yeah,
anyway.
No, it makes sense. I was looking you could theoretically rent a car or whatever and go up to Omaha if you wanted or something.
So if I get stuck, I will probably rent a car, go to Omaha to escape. Yes. The only other thing I'll say is it's because it's public charter.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you have to sign an agreement that you're taking a charter flight. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and the rules are different. They're like, if we have a major schedule change, we'll refund your money, but our definition of major schedule change is more than 48 hours.
Oh, so they get to operate under some different rules.
Yeah, so if you're actually considering, and I'm only half-assed considering this, if you're seriously considering this, just note that it's not the normal commercial airline benefits and operations.
What does that mean, as far as if they were to cancel the flight? I mean, they basically can just refund your money. I mean, you're not going to sit around for a week and take the next flight, I'm guessing.
Probably not. I mean, the next one should only be 3 or 4 days later, but probably not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it's interesting. There's a brewery really close to the airport. Zipline Brewing.
If this comes to fruition, I'll get back in touch with you for some real.
I'm looking at all the options for you. I'm looking out for you. Okay. And then you put something on the notes, and I have no idea what this is because you didn't include a link. But really cool airline.
Yeah, this is in Thailand, and I can't decide I'm looking at the website now. I can't decide if this is basically the same as that Hamburg one that was an absolute scam dreamt up by a 17-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
But they claim that they're 181 days from departure.
Interesting.
Pictures of A350s. Yeah.
Do you think it's going to actually happen? Should people book this, or should they wait?
Oh, I don't think you can actually book it yet. It's the guy starting it is, I think, former Knock Air. So he's a real, understands airlines at least.
Interesting.
Yeah, but focus on flights to Japan. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Currently in the process of trying to get their certificates for operation, hoping to get them by September and operate in December.
I will say that is an interesting market, like Japan to Thailand. I've been looking at flights. I was supposed to go to Thailand. Was looking at flights and consistently sold out in business, even on paid fares through Tokyo, like every day.
Yeah, I think part of that is there's not a lot of stuff to the U.S. from Thailand. There's no nonstops.
Yep.
And the feed is tough. United has the joint venture with ANA. If I remember correctly, American has a joint venture with JAL, or is a partner at least. But like the other onward would be via Singapore or via Hong Kong, typically with Cathay or Singapore Airlines or Cathay.
Yep. Cathay
is still way, way down in capacity. Singapore's coming back, but I'm not sure what their capacity into Thailand is right now. So, and especially for business, there's a ton of technology, business travel, and factories and stuff that people got to get to. So
I mean, the other option is Seoul, but even that, I think, it's not great. But I mean, and that's Delta's connecting,
right? Yeah,
really. So, I think and the other part of that too is that when you look at travel into Southeast Asia, some of the timings, like out of Hong Kong specifically back to the United States, like United's starting to run the Hong Kong San Francisco flight, but it leaves Hong Kong now at like 11 p.m. So it's a really weird arrival back into the U.S. It's like
what time is that back to you?
I think it's like midnight almost. So you can't really connect to anything. Like if you're not using it as O&D, it's really hard.
That's a weird choice.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because they don't want the crew. Like if the crew, I don't even know what the reasoning would be because it's not stopping anywhere else. Like it's
and I mean the crew has to spend the day.
Yeah,
they're not round tripping that.
Or unless they're taking up business seats, and they just fly the crew back. Like they don't.
It lands at 8.
8. Sorry, I thought it was at one point it was later.
10:30 p.m. departure lands at 8. Maybe it was daylight saving time mismatch.
Yep.
That's still not great.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going back to New York or anything East Coast, you take a red eye. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's really weird. Let's talk about Lufthansa and
it does move to an earlier time by May, just so you know.
Okay. Tell me about Lufthansa and our favorite airline we love to rag on, ITA.
Not Alitalia. Not Alitalia lost 480 million euro last year, citing macroeconomic conditions.
I wish I had $480 million to just set on fire and then go,
Well, you're not the Italian government. Also, calling it macroeconomic conditions, I mean, to be fair, their long-haul operations weren't really fully up and running last summer, and fuel prices are up and staffing is hard and all that stuff. But that's a lot of money to lose given how well things generally were in Europe over the last 12 months and between Europe and North America, which is one of their main areas of focus.
Yeah.
Lufthansa appears to be progressing towards completing the transaction to buy ITA, but on the heels of ITA announcing this massive loss, said, oh, see, you guys are actually a terribly run airline, and we're going to need a discount. Sorry. And so now there seems to be some question of what the actual price for the deal is going to be.
I mean, to be fair, ITA kind of set themselves, and the Italian government kind of set themselves up for that. So,
yeah, I mean, but part of me almost wonders if Lufthansa didn't drag out this
to wait till the finances,
so they could learn what the real numbers are.
Yeah, but do you blame them?
No.
They're buying a lemon and they know it.
Yeah, I mean they're buying access to the gates into the.
Yeah,
right.
That's
exactly.
Plots,
the sort of the operation, and hoping they can get rid of a lot of the people, I would assume.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Tell me about some business class seats. This time from a company called AFKL.
Air France KLM.
Oh, they offered a new seat?
No, fees.
Oh. Seat fees. Oh, God. I didn't read the full note.
Oops. And I'll put a slash next time between AFKL. Yeah, they are going to start charging for seat assignments in certain markets for long-haul business class.
This shit's getting out of hand.
And so it's not to North America, at least to start, it seems. And obviously their elites get the benefit of having that fee waived, a la British Airways.
Yeah.
But, yeah, not great.
I don't. I mean, I know why they don't do this, but I wish they would just put it in the fare and be like, okay, we made your fare go up by $25 or whatever the stupid fee is to book a seat. It's absolutely ridiculous. I want to drop my F-bomb. It's ridiculous, but I won't drop the F-bomb. Like, this is stupid. You're paying $9,000-$10,000 and they're penny pinching. You know, anyway. All right, move on. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Finnair cuts.
Finnair has citing, right? They're getting screwed by the Russian airspace closure.
Yep.
So can't really get to the Mideast or to the Far East easily anymore. That's a problem. And so they pivoted. They started flying to Dubai, I think. Like, there's just a lot going on there. But ultimately, they're trying to make things work, and it's not going great. The latest bit is citing the need to cut costs. They're going to, what do they say? They're going to cut the second meal in economy class on flights to New York and to Dubai.
Okay.
So you get your first meal when you leave Helsinki, and instead of that snack typically that you get as the second meal 8 hours later or 7 hours later, you're going to get buy on board options.
Yeah, that's kind of nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, Helsinki to New York, is it always 8 hours? It's close, right?
Blocked at 8:45.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't love that.
No, I understand they're getting rid of blankets. Or they're getting rid of pillows but keeping blankets. They had a note about in the press release, like, oh, you should consider packing granola bars because those go through security easily. Like, super chipper about how great they're going to be and help you out. It's pretty funny.
I mean, I would get it if they like did something where they didn't have to, like, maybe it was something that they handed out before the flight or something, like on, at the gate.
Yeah.
And here's some granola bars or something. I would kind of get that, but I don't know, 8 hours without a meal. Like, if you're gonna have a meal and then you have to pay before you land, I don't know. It's kind of scummy.
That's a tough one to me. Also, it seems like it's too far to be considered the shorter long haul flights. Now, low cost carriers do it. Right? I remember Norwegian when I flew them, and I assume North still does it. Like, on shorter transatlantic flights, you had to do that.
Yep.
But, yeah.
And I mean, does this really help them with the bottom line? Like, I mean, of course they've crunched the numbers, right?
Right. They know how much they're going to save. What they don't know is how much it's going to cost them.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, are people not going to fly Finnair? I mean, if you're in Finland, I mean, I guess you can connect to someone else, but it's not like SAS is doing great either. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Right. And when I wrote about this, I pulled up the old Gordo quote, Gordon Bethune from Continental, right? You can make a pizza so cheap nobody will eat it. You can make an airline so cheap no one will fly it. Is this the last straw? And sort of going back to the seating fees from Air France and KLM, like, probably not.
Yeah, here's my question. I mean, we can talk about the KLM thing. I just it annoys me because how bad are they doing financially that this is like, oh, they're like, oh, this is a good idea. Like, what penny pincher consultant was like, yeah, seat selection, make them pay for it. They're already buying a $10,000 business class seat. Why not make them pay for one more thing? Yeah, it seems like they're getting bad advice, and they're just going to piss off people who do fund a lot of the flight, right?
The question is, even when they're pissed off, are they going to stop buying? Are they going to book away? And I'm not sure they will.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're in a captive market, if you're in Paris or you're in Amsterdam, like, why would you connect if you can get a nonstop to pretty much anywhere?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I still fly BA. I'm flying a lot of BA this year because it was so much cheaper, and I haven't paid a seat fee yet. But even if I had to pay the seat fee, it was cheaper than the alternatives.
Yeah.
So that's different than a $10,000 full fare ticket we were paying also. But, we're considering.
We just won't know, right, for a while, until this goes into place. And we won't.
And, if it was this or something else, it's really hard to prove one way or another.
Yeah.
But on the bottom line, you can definitely see the real number. You can see the revenue.
Yeah. Hotels.com. I mean, this made a lot of news. So Hotels.com has destroyed its loyalty program. I think people were really up in arms about this. I know you're a Hotels.com user.
Was
not going to be anymore.
I've got 5 nights to redeem. They've gutted it. So it's been part of Expedia for a long time. The old program was the old program was even better. Right. The old program was, I think you booked 10 nights and then your next night was free, basically up to several $100s. So you could book 10 dumps and, crappy nights and then book a really nice one. And then they changed it. So it became every 10 you got one free, but the free one was the average of the rate you paid. So basically straight 10% rebate. That wasn't terrible. I've got a bunch of rooms. Some are cheaper than others. I need to finally start using them, it would seem. I've got 5 booked up that I need to redeem still. So there's that. But the new version is 2%.
Wow.
And the only slight, vaguely better, whatever you could argue is that it also includes a bunch of other things like rental cars and other stuff through Expedia all into a single account. So it's nice to consolidate that.
Yep. And
you earn your credits towards their elite program based on all of your activity. So like a 3-day rental car and 3-night hotel stay becomes 6 credits towards elite status, plus your flight each way counts as 1. That gets you 8. And silver status comes at 5 and gold comes at 10. So status is stupid easy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hit status, your earn rate grows, but still not enough to make up for the cuts.
I mean, do you think this is cost savings, or were they really hurting that bad?
No, if I had to bet, I'd say it has to do with consolidating to a single program rather than multiple loyalty programs.
Yeah.
And then coming up with a sort of standard earn rate across all the stuff. Part of me also wonders if they're seeing pressure from hotels on commissions. Right. The main reason the program could be so rich historically is that hotels, especially independent hotels, paying an OTA like Expedia for booking could have been 20 to 30% in some scenarios.
I got you. Yeah.
And if they finally started negotiating those rates down or doing a better job of selling directly and not needing the OTAs as much, I can see that.
The OTAs need to do something to make up that cost or to attract
from you. Yeah.
Wow. It's interesting. I know there's a lot of people who use the Hotels.com program. Like you're not the only one. And so I was a little shocked that they've kind of gutted it this much, but they've got the numbers. So they clearly know this is how much it's costing them.
Yeah.
But again, we won't see what it actually does to demand or usage until we have a little bit more data, right?
Yeah. We probably won't see it all.
Yeah.
Again, so yeah, obviously they do have some of the numbers, but who the hell? Again, who knows? It certainly is a cost-cutting measure. Yeah. Then maybe, and they're going to lose some revenue too. So we'll see.
Yeah. Colombian Airlines are going bankrupt, and the Air Force is.
Yeah. So Viva was falling apart for the last several months and was trying to merge with with Avianca, I think, and then someone else tried to buy them, and it got weird, and they were like, "Hey, government, could you act on this? Let us know what's going on." And the government sort of never did, and just kept dragging its feet. And they're like, "Hey, well, we tried, we ran out of money. Goodbye." And then since they've actually collapsed, they actually shut down operations in February. Since they've shut down operations, I think the government has finally approved the Avianca deal, but who the heck knows what's going on there now. There's some strict conditions about opening up slots and other things. And then Ultra Air, which I had never heard of, but is one of the random low-cost airlines with 6 planes flying around, mostly domestic, went out of business a couple weeks ago.
Oh, things are going great.
Yeah. And so the Colombian president has apparently offered up the presidential aircraft and potentially also getting the Air Force to move people around, I guess, on whatever planes they have.
I booked a flight on a 737 and I ended up on a C-130.
Rather than being stranded where you are with no way to get home. And there's thousands of displaced passengers, so it's pretty bad.
Wow.
The other interesting thing about that, Colombia as a market in general, is Wingo, which is the local arm of Copa.
Mm-hmm.
So a long time ago now, Copa bought into the Colombian market and rebranded. It was like Copa Colombia or something like that, and they rebranded it to Wingo, and they're flying international stuff. They're actually getting back into the domestic market to try to pick up some of this traffic too.
Wow.
So,
I mean, do you think, I mean, with this buyout, do you think, or this purchase of Avianca, or sorry, Viva, is it going to be, do you think this will relieve it, or do you think they're just going to struggle the same amount or more?
if they can get some of the capacity back into service, that would be good.
Yeah.
If they have to give up a bunch of gates and slots and whatever and can't, I mean, then I have to give up everything. So there's some opportunity there. But
Yep.
it'll be interesting to see just how much comes back to life, but also at what price. Right? The challenge was Viva was a low cost and, whatever, and Avianca historically is not. And so they do still have some cheaper fares, but like what's the price point going to be? With less competition, the fares are going to come up. Is there going to be demand at that price point?
Yep. Interesting. China Southern and China Eastern are going to get some MAX deliveries, potentially?
Maybe. Maybe. They seem to think that that's going to happen. They've tried.
Okay.
They've announced that these planes have been on hold for a long time. I think China Southern even announced that they're expecting more deliveries than were actually previously announced as orders.
Mm-hmm.
They want to accelerate them because they want to rebound and grow and restore capacity and all that other fun stuff. But I think China Southern also announced that it lost like $5 billion last year.
Oh. Well, when you're not really flying.
Yeah. Speaking of, it must be nice. Have money to burn like that. But also, more to the point, just trying to, we've talked about the MAX situation in China for a long, long time now, since the grounding, basically. Earlier this year, around January, the first of, or what we thought was one of the last hurdles was crossed of getting it recertified, and they're flying again.
Mm-hmm.
But getting new deliveries is still not really a thing, and the Chinese government basically has to say it's okay for deliveries to start again, and right now, U.S.-China relations are not super strong.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if they can, do a live TikTok stream of the delivery.
Oh, God. I mean, to be fair, I mean, we don't have to get political. To be fair, we should be looking at all, privacy, all social media privacy. It's kind of crazy and asinine to ban one platform, but anyway.
But they're communists, Stephen.
I mean, I get the point, right? They're sharing the data with the state. I totally get it, but I still think you should address the problem as a whole, not as a.
And also, let's not pretend that the U.S. companies aren't also.
Yes, facilitating
some of that access for governments in. Maybe there's a war, maybe there's not, but it's pretty careful.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, not to. People know where we stand on this. Let's talk about Easy. What's that?
You think people figured it out based on that?
Maybe. I don't know. Tell me about EasyJet's travel vision for 2070.
So this was interesting. They put out a press release. I finally read it. I was like, yeah, whatever. But EasyJet put out the press release. It's sort of like we got Britain's finest futurists to tell us what they think is going to happen.
Okay.
So let's start with a bunch of these people have a job title of futurist. But some of the things that are being talked about as likely to have happened by then, 3D printed recyclable holiday clothes available on arrival at the hotel so you don't have to have a suitcase. Digital holographic personal concierge accompanying holidaymakers to provide up-to-date destination information and advice. Autonomous rent-a-car vehicles at the destination. Week-long holiday package trips to the moon. In-flight entertainment beamed directly in front of passengers' eyes, doing away with the need to download shows before you fly or the need for onboard TV screens.
Okay.
3D printed hotel buffet food serving up any all-inclusive breakfast, lunch, and dinner that holidaymakers desire and reducing food waste. Ergonomic and biomimetic sensory plane seats that adapt to passengers' body shape, weight, and temperature, providing ultimate comfort. In-ear real-time translation.
Okay.
Smart hotels with personalized holiday rooms that adapt and configure to travelers' needs and wants. subterranean hotels built into the fabric of the earth that are super energy efficient and at one with the environment, time-traveling holiday experiences via haptic suits that allow you to visit historical sites and see how life would have played out in a prior era.
So it's like the it's like they're gonna get rid of all of those come to Gettysburg and see how we lived or whatever.
Well, you'll go to Gettysburg, but you'll put on a suit and like be dirty immediately. I don't know. And the biometric heartbeat passports. This is another interesting one where they'll be able to. Apparently every heartbeat has a unique rhythm to it.
Okay.
That people would be you would just walk through and they can detect that heartbeat seamlessly and know who you are going through security and check-in and everything else. I don't know. Some of these seem reasonable. The other thing I thought that was interesting in the study, and I'm trying to find it in this report now, is that like 85% of passengers will have eVTOL transfer between home and the airport by 2070.
Wow.
Straight up Jetsons play.
I mean, 2070 is, 47 years away.
Yes.
Some of this stuff does seem reasonable. I think like the topics of like, and a lot of these things, like when I hear these like futurists, which I hate that name, but when I hear people talk about the future, a lot of the things are stretch goals and like we're going to make progress to these things, but you're never going to get to that, like the thing that's been talked about, like the hotels underground to save energy. I think what you're going to see is actually like less of that and more just like how do we make a hotel more energy efficient? Like that, That'll happen. I think that's real. Or the food waste. I think that's a great one. Like I don't know, it's going to be 3D printed.
That's the part of it that's weird to me. It's like, why are we calling it 3D printed food?
Yeah,
like
it looks like a chicken breast, but it's really tofurkey, and we 3D printed it.
That and like 3D printed clothes to like if you want, I don't know, like if you want to get clothes at the destination, you can get clothes at the destination. I guess if it's 3D printed, is that because it's plastic and then they can melt it down into like the polyester and rebuild it as something else again? Because that sounds super uncomfortable to me.
It's super uncomfortable and wasteful. Like the energy.
Well, no, because you can just recycle your shirt into the next guy's shirt.
Yeah, but it still takes energy to 3D print things.
Yes, I know.
So I don't know. I mean, I get some of it. I get it. Like you have to have people who are thinking about these things because you're going to need to start making inroads in those things.
Yeah.
Like my example would be if the people who worked at Apple on Siri had someone in the futurist department going, there's this thing called AI and it's much better than Siri that can't answer basic questions. We should probably go that way. Have you heard this interview with the guy from Siri?
No.
So he like
I'm worried that you think AI is good at answering questions.
No. Well, it's not. I mean, I'll talk about that in a second. This guy from Apple that they were on the podcast or whatever were interviewing, and he was like, it takes us if you needed to add a term to the database for Siri, you had to do it in all the languages, and the recompiling of the database or repackaging of the database took 6 weeks to do for one term. What? Like, how is this ever efficient? Like, that's why you need the futurist. You need the futurist to go, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a model, and we're going to throw everything at it, and then it's going to come up with some better. And you would probably get better results than whatever Siri's doing.
Yeah.
Because, like, in what world does 6 weeks for a database packaging make any sense?
Yeah, that's insane.
But anyway, let's talk about roam around, because you brought this up on a show many moons ago.
Yeah.
And I finally got it to work. I guess they finally bought some more tokens for access to the APIs that they're using.
Yeah.
But I ran Portland through it, and it suggested things like Voodoo Donuts, which maybe tourists go to. I guess
If you think about what it's feeding from.
Yeah.
If you go and do a search online for what are the top things to visit in Portland, Oregon, every post is going to say Voodoo Donuts. So that's what it did.
And then it suggested Pok Pok, which has been closed since 2020.
And if I remember correctly, it's based, most of the chat GPT, I heard this the other day, is based on a 2021 snapshot of the internet.
Yes, exactly.
So that lines up with that as well. I know. I was just poking the bear here a little bit. Linnea, my wife, made a good comment the other day when we were talking about it at dinner one night. And she's like, basically, it's something of it's going to become a situation where the computers are writing content for other computers to read.
Yeah.
And it's going to become like a self-serving circle jerk of training itself on other terrible stuff. And when there's no new content, like future, there's the potential that in 2070, the only thing the AI is going to know about is what the internet thought about 2020.
Yeah. The future sounds amazing. I can't wait.
No.
I mean, it is one of those topics where I think AI, like what I want AI to do, like I think there's some things that AI could do really well. Like here, build me an itinerary for a trip. Okay, great. Knowing, right, as a tool user,
Right.
it's not going to be perfect. It's going to need to
But
be refined.
you'd like it to know that Steven likes cities and Seth likes beaches and Foz likes whatever.
Yep.
You'd like it to know you a little bit and get some of that personalization that we've been promised also for decades.
Yep.
Or not decades, but certainly years. Right.
And I think AI is capable of that. And we've moved terms, right? It used to be ML, like machine learning. Now it's AI, and it's not like this is like stuff that's like the computer's thinking. It's not self-aware, right? It's taking a model that someone's written and applying.
Just highly advanced mass volume statistics and data processing.
Yeah, it's Google without the Googling. So that's what it is. Anyway, we're going to talk about some fun stuff in the bonus show for our Patreon subscribers. We're going to talk about Hello Kitty. We're going to talk about Breeze and some growth they're doing. Another bit of news in Mexico, and then some stuff in Paris that's going on. So stay tuned for that for our Patreon subscribers. But to everyone else, thank you for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a tweet. Send us an email. We would love to respond and have a conversation. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Happy travels.